Well, let's look at the Knicks' best possible offer with one of the many fake trades we will discuss on this podcast here. So with the Knicks, Tom, I think the best they could probably do is Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby. They have 2 pick swaps and 7 second-round draft picks. They don't have any outright first-round draft picks they can deal. They could get back Giannis and Kyle Kuzma in a deal like that. Obviously, the Bucks, they don't have their own first, so there is a possibility here. Think about when the Spurs traded Kawhi Leonard. At the time, the Celtics offered Jaylen Brown. They didn't want Jaylen Brown. They ended up taking the more proven commodity with the DeMar DeRozan package from the Toronto Raptors. It's very possible that the Bucks say, we don't want unproven assets. We don't want the picks-heavy package with nothing else. We want proven guys to have a competitive, solid team. We want Cat. We want OG Anunoby. We want to build out a team this way that's scrappy, that can space the floor with Turner and with Towns. Who knows? They could prefer a package like this. But ultimately, like you said, Tom, that deal would have happened by now if both sides wanted it, if this were indeed on the table. Both sides would want this. If they would have done it if it were on the table already. So I don't think that this is what the Bucks would want, which is why it gets back to my question here of like, will they appease Giannis's wishes and send him to a team that he wants to go to? Will they send him to the highest bidder, which could also be a team on his list? That could be the case. Or are they going to send him wherever they want, and it might be a team that's not on their list? And I want to go through each of these 3 paths with some fake trades here to kind of, get a feel for what could be out there for the Bucks. What teams in theory could be on Giannis's list? I want to start out with the Warriors, Tom. Because I feel like Golden State, the Steph Giannis relationship over the years could be something there. Maybe it's a fake trade where the Warriors give up Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and then they have a collection of picks they could give up: a 2026 first, 27 swap, 28 first, 29 swap, 2031 swap, 2032 first, get back Giannis, Kyle Kuzma, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's in every single one of these deals, by the way, that we're going to talk about today. Giannis's brother. I think the Warriors would drive Jimmy Butler to the airport. I think they would drive Draymond to the airport to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. You could put together a bunch of different combinations that would work with the Warriors, but their picks package isn't great. Like, this wouldn't be the best offer. This would be appeasing Giannis and giving him what he wants.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting formation. I would break it out into three teams, and I would say Warriors get Giannis. Jimmy Butler goes actually routed over to Phoenix, where they've been talking to each other. Last year, we talked so much about Jimmy Butler and the Phoenix Suns, but of course, the Dillon Brooks remaking the whole organization and the culture in that locker room. I don't think that they would move Dillon Brooks over in a trade. But I do think Jalen Green and Grayson Allen moving up to Milwaukee, and you put the picks in from the Golden State Warriors side. The pick package that you just put in, I think, goes to Milwaukee in this package. I don't think Jalen Green and Grayson Allen is enough to get Milwaukee to bite in this situation. But if you throw in the Warriors pick package, I think they look at this deal and entertain it. And from the Suns' perspective, Jimmy Butler is another guy that raises the floor of your team, and you have Dillon Brooks already. You have Devin Booker. You got enough guys who are able to handle the ball. And so if you want a gritty team and a very annoying team to play against, what 2 better players to have on your team than Dillon Brooks and Jimmy Butler? So this is my favorite one of all of the permutations, is a 3-team trade involving the Phoenix Suns, who are now, like, last year I was like, this offseason, I was like, why would the Suns really want Jimmy Butler? They're going to be rebuilding. They're not rebuilding anymore. They're a really good team this year. So maybe this is a time for Jimmy Butler to move to Phoenix and help them chase higher ground here in the Western Conference. And of course, the appeal for the Warriors is they get Giannis, pair him with Draymond and Stephen Curry, and they try one last time to go for it this year and next year. But this is the trade that I think makes the most sense if you were the Milwaukee Bucks. But there are other partners that maybe one-on-one, like a 2-team trade, makes some sense, but I kind of like this one, Kev. What do you think?
I think this would be the most likely path if the Warriors ended up with Giannis, where you'd see Jimmy Butler sent to a 3rd team. Now, there's not a lot of potential 3rd teams that would want Jimmy Butler, I don't think. I'd imagine maybe the Sixers exchange him for Paul George. Maybe the Clippers, like really desperate team like that, change the energy in that room even more. But I can't see many other Jimmy Butler teams that make more sense than the Phoenix Suns. I'd say the Suns make the most sense by far, and that's probably you don't want Jimmy Butler if you're the Bucks. So I'd imagine it would have to be a 3-team trade if the Warriors end up with Giannis. And so there's other trades. I think if it's big market, we know he likes the Knicks. What if it's the Lakers? Would they put Austin Reeves on the table, who will be a free agent next summer with a player option for next year? Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, Dalt Connect, and then give up 3 future pick swaps in 28, 30, and 32 with a 31 first to get Giannis and Cole Anthony back in the deal. I don't love it, again, for the Bucks. I mean, Austin Reeves would be a great acquisition, but if I'm the Bucks, I don't want just the player. I want the player and the picks. That's the way I feel about, this deal. It's the way I feel about the Heat. If it's the Miami Heat, if that's where Giannis wants to go, Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Terry Rozier, and with 2 pick swaps, with 2 first-round draft picks in the future. Again, like if it's Miami, if I'm the Bucks, I'm like, why would I accept this deal? Why would I derail my whole future? Like, we had these great years with Giannis, but I wouldn't accept a deal like this. And last year, months ago, Tom, when this was first a thing, Brian Windhorst was on Get Up, and he was talking about how Giannis, if he wants out, would go east. And the Knicks were mentioned, of course, and Boston was mentioned as well. Not as a clear-cut report by Windy, but just as like, he would want to win where he goes, and the Celtics were mentioned. So what if the Celtics were to put Jaylen Brown on the table? Crazy trade. Go get Giannis. Send out Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, 2 future firsts in 26 and 31 with 2 swaps in 30 and 32. Why would the Bucks do this? Again, if Giannis has like these contending teams or big market teams on his list, if I'm a Bucks fan listening or watching this podcast right now, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is dumb. Yeah, it is dumb. That's the point of the exercise here. Some of these teams that could be on his list, they can't make offers that help your franchise for the post-Giannis era. That's the way I feel about some of these teams with this appeasing Giannis path, Tom. Do any of those make sense? Is there any logic to the Bucks doing this at all? Like, not this trade, but the Celtics deal, the Heat deal, the Lakers deal. Do you like any of those at all? Maybe the Lakers one.
Well, I think, what is the goal if you're the Milwaukee Bucks? Is your goal to stay competitive and reload because you don't have your 2026 first pick because now the Atlanta Hawks have the ability to swap that? Yeah. That's the question for me, is what is the goal? Because you say that it's a dumb trade, but you're getting the finals MVP in this trade. Like, that's not a terrible trade. If you're going to get rid of Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're getting an all-NBA, all-star caliber player in Jaylen Brown, who is, I will say, not like the number one rebuilding foundational superstar that you would want in a trade if you're getting rid of Giannis. But this all gets back to my theory that we should have done this over in the offseason. They should have traded Giannis this offseason, because now you're dealing with a guy who's got this calf injury. And we know that we have a league that is very scared of calf injuries now. And so you weren't able to have the same sort of leverage that you did a couple months ago. And now you're sitting here at 10 and 13. Giannis has a calf injury that is very strange. Second time that he's had this issue. And all of his athleticism is predicated on making sure he's healthy. Giannis Antetokounmpo is not a guy who's able to age gracefully if he's not as strong and as fast as he used to be. So you have to make sure that when you acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo, that calf is okay, and that groin is okay, and then make sure, yes, he's Giannis, but at the end of the day, we've seen so many injuries to star players in today's NBA that I think the team that was going to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo is probably like, look, we're not going to put in the whole kitchen sink here. And for Jaylen Brown and a couple firsts to go to Milwaukee, I don't think it's as crazy as you suggest. And I would even think that some Boston fans in that deal would say that's too much for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Kev.
We're not giving up Pritchard. No Pritchard.
I know. Anybody but him. Like, you could throw in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, fine, but not Peyton Pritchard. I think, Kev, to me, does San Antonio make the most sense because of their ability to put in all of the Like, think about what they could put into a trade for Milwaukee, right? Like, that seems like, to me, if there's a one team destination that could make the most sense from an asset standpoint of what would make Milwaukee the happiest, I think it's got to be San Antonio.
It definitely, the Spurs are probably at the top of the list, and I think they're the path too. The Bucks send Giannis to the highest bidder, and it happens to be a team that he's open to going to. I think they're one of the two teams I would put in that category, and I have a fake trade for them where Dylan Harper, Devin Vassell, Kelly Olynyk, and then a whole bunch of picks. The Spurs could give up the 26 Hawks first, 28 Celtics first, top one protected, a 2030 Mavs or Wolves first, a 2031 Kings swap. That could be highly valuable down the line, considering Sacramento is never in the playoffs. Yeah, or right now. So, I mean, look, maybe Spurs fans are probably going to say, we're not giving up Harper. Okay, well, then maybe you have other picks that you put into this deal instead, or maybe you give Castle instead. And if it's not Castle, again, they have more picks that they could put on the table. But something along these lines, to me, this is more, if I'm a Bucks fan, I'm like, okay, I can live with this. We get a guy that has star potential. We get a good player in Devin Vassell, and we get, a good collection of future draft picks. This is the type of deal that I would want if I'm in that Bucks front office. And this is the type of deal I would seek out. And if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, San Antonio, to me, would be one of the ideal situations, if not the ideal situation. You would be Twin Towers again with Victor Wembanyama and you. Just like David Robinson and Tim Duncan back in the 90s, early 2000s. It'd kind of be throwing it back to that era. They haven't won yet. There's a nemesis in the Western Conference and the Oklahoma City Thunder to go take down. You can be the team that potentially does that. And he fits this team. He just does. Compared next to Wemby with De'Aaron Fox, I think it would work here with this system, with his style of play. And so with San Antonio, would you be willing to give up Harper for Giannis, or are you keeping Harper? Is he off the table? What's your Spurs deal look like, Tom, for Giannis?
Yeah, it looks a lot like this one. And the reason why I think Milwaukee loves this deal is because it kind of diversifies these picks. Because if you're trading Giannis and then you're going to ask them, hey, give me all your picks, you're acquiring picks that are probably going to be at the end of the first round, right? So even if you do trade to the Spurs and you're like, hey, I want your picks, they're able to put in a Hawks, the Celtics, like you're saying, multiple teams' first round picks. And so you have a much more valuable upside with these picks in this pick package than, say, if you trade them to the Knicks, and then if in this alternate reality you trade them to the Knicks and say, give me all your first round picks, you're kind of sabotaging your pick value. So I do think that this is a really good situation for the San Antonio Spurs, because they have Stephon Castle, they have De'Aaron Fox, they have Victor Wembanyama. So you could look at this situation and say, Dylan Harper, we lucked into Dylan Harper, and then we can parlay this into Giannis Antetokounmpo, a two-time MVP. Absolutely, I make this deal if I'm the San Antonio Spurs. And I think this is one of those situations where you look at it and you say, if we have the ability to get this guy who thrived next to Brook Lopez, a stretch five who slung three-pointers, and then defensively a rim protector who could save Giannis from having to go vertical every time down the floor as a rim protector, you got the best version of, you got like a supersized version of Brook Lopez and then some with Victor Wembanyama. So it's a perfect fit from a personnel standpoint and an asset standpoint. So if Giannis is open to this, and we don't know that, I think this makes sense for both sides.
I mean, to me, if he's not open to it, I'd still do it if I'm the Spurs. I'd still do it if I'm the Bucks. It's a cold business. I mean, everything we've seen, this year, every year in the NBA, ultimately, sometimes what you want in life and definitely in sports isn't always best for you. Kawhi Leonard gets sent to the Raptors. He wins a championship there. I mean, it's one of the most memorable championships we've seen in the last decade. Taking down the Warriors, granted the Warriors got hurt, but I remember seeing Kawhi limp through the locker room. It was heroic. I mean, Kawhi is going to be remembered for a lot of reasons. Aspiration, the load management, but I'm also going to have a memory in my mind of Kawhi powering that team to an NBA Finals. And he left, unfortunately. But sometimes what you always want isn't what's best for you. He won a title there and could have won more if he ended up staying.
And you think he's happy right now?
No,
you think
of course
Kawhi's
not.
happy right now?
And it's what he wanted.
James Harden, you think he's happy right now? Miserable. Chris Paul, you think he's happy right now with the way things went when the heart wants what it wants, but at some point,
how about Paul George, Tom? Paul George
Yeah.
got sent to OKC, had the best years of his career, and then he leaves, goes to the Clippers, and now he's in Philadelphia because it was so bad there. So, I mean, look, what you want isn't always what's best for you, which is why I think for Giannis, yes, you have your preferred destinations. San Antonio should definitely be on that list for him, considering the opportunity there. But even if it's not, if I'm the Spurs, like if I have an opportunity to go get Giannis, why would I not go get Giannis Antetokounmpo if I'm the San Antonio Spurs? I feel that way about the Spurs. I feel that way if I'm the Rockets as well, Tom. That's the other deal I think would make a lot of sense from the Buck standpoint and from a Giannis standpoint. If the Rockets were to send Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, Fred VanVleet, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a collection of future draft picks to the Bucks, 27 Nets first, 28 Rockets first, 29 Mavs or Suns first, 2031 Rockets first, get back Giannis, AJ Green. Look, Amen Thompson is awesome. I thought he was the defensive player of the year last year. I think he should have won it last year. He's amazing, and he could be really great, but he is not Giannis Antetokounmpo. And the Rockets have a chance to be the team that goes toe-to-toe with the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals or the second round. And this increases their odds of winning that series. If you add Giannis to Şengün, to Reed Shepherd, our guy, to Kevin Durant, if you have that team with all their depth and all their versatility and all the different ways they can play, can you imagine a lineup, Tom, with Steven Adams, Alperen Şengün, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Kevin Durant, and then a fifth, take your pick out there? That would be crazy.
AJ Green and Reed Shepherd could be the two best shooters in the NBA right now. And you put them next to Giannis and KD and Alperen Şengün, like they're going to have a field day. It's going to be unreal if this trade goes down. And I would say if I'm Milwaukee, I say yes and hang up the phone. If you're offering me Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, and a boatload of firsts, done. Like, say no more. I'm making that trade.
I think it's the best deal of all the ones on here.
For sure. I mean, Jabari Smith as the centerpiece alone, I think, would get the deal done. But then you throw in Amen Thompson too. Look, Reed Shepherd, if he has a weakness in his game, for sure, it's defensively. But you got Steven Adams and Giannis Antetokounmpo behind him. You're going to let Reed Shepherd be Reed Shepherd and just launch from downtown and be this amazing flamethrower for you at the point guard position. But is that enough in terms of like, if you're going into the postseason, if you're the Houston Rockets and your starting point guard is Reed Shepherd, how do you feel about things? Maybe you go out and you get a Chris Paul or something like that to stabilize and have a little bit more veteran leadership instead of having a second-year guard be your point guard. But then again, Kev, in today's NBA, if you have Alperen Şengün and Giannis on your team and Kevin Durant on your team, those are your point guards. You're running your offense through them. I don't have any worries about Alperen Şengün running your offense, especially if you got Giannis in transition. It's not like this is 1995 anymore and you need a John Stockton type out there.
No, it's not that type of year. It's not that type of decade era of basketball anymore at all. And so it can definitely work for the Rockets to have by committee shot creation. I think for Giannis, if I'm him, if I'm in his circle, I would put the Rockets and Spurs undoubtedly on my list. As I said, I think, think about years back after he won the finals, Giannis talked about, the path of joining a super team versus the path of the hardest path. These are kind of like super-ish teams, what the Rockets and the Spurs would have, but they're not traditional throwback super teams of that era with stars coming together, forming a new team. To me, this still would be a hard path because the number one team in the Western Conference is still the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that could win 74, 75 plus games this year that has dynasty upside. And so if you're on the Rockets or Spurs and you can be that team that year in, year out has a chance to contend against that team and compete against them in the playoffs, that is a hard path. And so for Giannis, I think the other part of it here, Tom, is like John Horst whiffed on pick after pick after pick. He's part of the reason why they're in this situation, but Giannis isn't without blame either. He's the guy who wanted Adrian Griffin. He wanted them to trade for Damian Lillard. He's the guy who wanted Doc Rivers. He's the guy who didn't want to have like a retooling year. Giannis isn't without blame here, as he's kind of had a louder voice in the Bucks decision-making process over the last 5 years or so. He needs to also go to a team where it's hands off the wheel. and it's a good organization that's running things well, and just play and don't worry about some of those things. And I think some of these teams, the Rockets, the Spurs, and maybe some teams also on his list, the Knicks are also run very, very well. They make sense as places for him to go and just play, just win, and don't feel like you have to have a loud voice with all the decisions anymore. That hasn't gone well for Giannis in recent years, Tom.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I do think that there's a gut tax that he has to worry about too, is that if he's going to be begging to go to one particular destination and steadfast with that, the team's going to have to give up a ton of ready-made players like the Knicks did this with Carmelo Anthony, and it didn't end up in a championship. And in many ways, it was a failure because they had to give up so much to Denver in order to get Carmelo Anthony in a trade rather than sign him in free agency. And that gut tax that you point out, the Rockets deal, if you're the Rockets, I'm much more open to trading Reed Shepherd, of course, than Amen Thompson. Jabari Smith becomes a lot more expendable in that deal. If you're getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, you already have Kevin Durant. Where's the space for Jabari Smith, where you're looking at Alperen Şengün and Steven Adams? That makes sense. I can add Giannis without taking away too much from my roster, in the same way that Reed Shepherd, because he's the guy coming off the bench for Amen Thompson, it seems like I can add Giannis without gutting my team. The other teams on this list that we talked about, it's like, if you're the Knicks, are you willing to trade Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby to get Giannis? It seems like we're back to square one with the Carmelo Anthony trade, where it's like, are we really going to give up a lot of key pieces to add Giannis? And at this age, Giannis, where it's not like they got a 10-year runway with him. So I do think, Kev, the trade, if you're going to do the Knicks while we're here, if you're the Knicks, I think it's a 3-team trade. You move Karl Anthony Towns to Phoenix, where he can reunite finally with Devin Booker, one of his buddies. And they have a big opening at that power forward and center position there in Phoenix. They're trying to contend. They're trying to have a redemptive season here. Matt Ishbia hires Brian Gregory for his GM and brings in first-year head coach Jordan Ott, and then is now a winning outfit. I feel like if you do a 3-team trade, Jalen Green goes to Milwaukee, and you get Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns to Phoenix, I feel like that is a 3-team trade that if you're the Knicks, I'm okay with getting rid of Karl Anthony Towns if I'm getting Giannis in return. But OG, that feels like that it might be a bridge too far.
I totally agree with you. I think that those types of 3-way iterations are really what make most sense, especially from the Knicks standpoint. But again, from a Bucks standpoint, I don't. That's not what I want. Like, that's, to me, that isn't a big enough return for Giannis, which is why I keep thinking about, could there be a path where they send him to a surprise team that's not on his list, like the Hawks, for example. The Hawks can give the Bucks back 2 of their picks, the 26 Bucks or Pelicans first, which could be the number 1 pick in the draft, the 2027 Bucks or Pelicans first as well. They can give up multiple firsts with Trae Young. There's a deal like that. What if there's like a total surprise team out of nowhere? One of these teams with a ton of draft picks, Danny Ainge out of nowhere says, hey, we can trade up to 9 first-round draft picks. We just drafted Ace Bailey. We're going to go get Giannis and pair him with Lauri Markkanen. Maybe it could be a team like that. Like, what if the Brooklyn Nets decided to do something crazy along those lines? There's these teams like the Hornets. They can trade up to 8 first-round draft picks. Maybe there's some surprise random team that comes out of nowhere and says, we're going to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo. But ultimately, if I'm one of those teams, it's too much of a risk considering the short-term contract Giannis is on. The only team that has a bunch of first-round picks that could win on the other side of it, Tom, is the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I do not think this will happen, but this is the deal that would break the NBA, that would make people quit watching basketball, is if they sent Isaiah Hartenstein, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Nikola Topic, and as many picks as it would take to go get Giannis. This is the deal that should never happen, should be banned, but it would turn them potentially into the 1960s Celtics. So I wouldn't fault them if they ended up going for it. I don't think it would happen, but they have the ammo to have the best offer on the table, which is the crazy thing in all of this. They could make the best offer if they wanted to.
They absolutely could, man.
Oh,
That's
man.
the scary thing. Like, they could have the best trade offer while being 21-1 and not really lose much. I mean, I love Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe are great stories, Isaiah Hartenstein, but I'm telling you, man, if you told me that Giannis Antetokounmpo would be traded in 2025 with the principal player going back to Milwaukee as Isaiah Hartenstein, I would have thought you're crazy. But because OKC has stockpiled everyone's best pick over the next 10 years, it is a debate. It is a debate worth having, is whether OKC would have the trump card on all of these trades based on how many picks they have, Kev. It's
Would you do it if you're OKC? Would you do it, Tom? Would you trade for Giannis if you were Sam? You would. If you're Sam Presti, you would do it.
Yeah, if it meant I didn't give up Chet Holmgren, I would do this deal. And I know the counter argument is, look, they're on a basically an 80 win pace right now without Giannis Antetokounmpo. Why would you fix something that isn't broken? And I would say the team is so SGA heavy right now. I feel like adding Giannis would help just kind of level out your risk in today's superstar era and the injury question. I feel like adding a Giannis Antetokounmpo who can carry you in ways that, like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is like, I mean, J-Dub is back, but the weight that is on SGA's shoulders and everything he does for this team on both ends of the floor, it's incredible. And I think in today's NBA, you got to have multiple horses. And that's why I think like Giannis trade to OKC would make sense without giving up Chet or J-Dub. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Come on. You're saying you think about it, right? You think about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would you do it?
Yeah, I would do it if I were OKC. I mean, look, just because if you're in your fantasy leagues or fantasy basketball leagues, just because you have the best record in the league doesn't mean you should stop tinkering with your team. It's the same thing in reality with basketball. Just because you are on an 80 win pace, it doesn't mean maybe it does mean that, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't stop tinkering with your team when it's an opportunity to get Giannis. I do think it means don't bring in a voice like Chris Paul around the edges, which could make a dramatic change. But I do think adding a player of Giannis's caliber, Hartenstein's going to be a free agent in another year. You know, some of these other guys are going to be big money free agents that have to be replaced eventually. You know, a Wiggins type, or if it's Lou Dort in the deal instead, or Case and Wallace instead. There's different pieces that could go in there. Those guys are eventually going to be lost and will have to be replaced. It's just the reality of the situation with the Thunder. At some point, it's going to happen. These guys are going to get big money deals elsewhere. And so if you could consolidate some of those pieces into Giannis Antetokounmpo, yes, please. Yes, please. But that deal above any of the deals, he could go to the Rockets. He could go to the Spurs. He could go to the Lakers. Giannis could go to any of these big market teams, these teams with star players existing. No deal would break the NBA more than Giannis going to the Thunder. It would just be absurd if that ended up happening, Tom. Absurd.
You know what? If I start hearing that Will Rogers International Airport in OKC is adding an Athens flight, I think that's all we need to know. Like, if he really wants to be closer to Athens and Greece, and which is why, you know, getting to New York is very appealing to Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's why these Midwestern options where it's San Antonio and OKC, like maybe he's at a different point in his life where he wants to be closer to home. I just feel like, man, if you're going to OKC and joining this team, maybe he feels a certain way that like he feels like that is a tall task because the bar is so high, so much pressure on Giannis going to OKC. They've already won a title and they're now trying to, you know, start a dynasty. That's a lot to put on your shoulders. But like Houston did this with the Golden State Warriors, and they almost did it. They almost took down the Golden State Warriors in the peak James Harden era, going against Steph and Clay and Draymond. And so there is a precedent for the Houston Rockets to say, look, there's no other way we're going to take down Goliath. We got to make these moves to take down this team. And they're looking at OKC for the next decade. So yeah, I would put all the chips in. Maybe not Amen Thompson in that trade scenario, but in order to take down OKC, you have to be bold.
And by the way, Tom, on the note of flights to Greece, a couple months back when that Knicks stuff first started trickling out, I posted how, hey, New York is one of the only NBA team cities that has direct flights from New York to Greece. And people made fun of me. They're like, well, Giannis, he can fly private. I don't think people realize how expensive flying private is. I mean, that would cost him like upwards of $150K, $200K to do that. Over the course of multiple times a year for his family, to have the kids and his wife go back and forth. They're flying first class. Internationally, it's like sometimes it's a very nice flight. They're flying first class on a quote unquote standard flight. They're not. I don't think they'd be flying private many times per year. And so it's beside the point.
He's making 60 million, not 60 billion. And there's a big difference between the M and the B there. Yeah.
And Giannis also a stickler with money. There's been stories about him in the past where he maxes out bank accounts in cash, and there's been plenty of stories about Giannis reported on about how he is with his money. So I don't think he's throwing money around on private flights from Greece to the United States, every month. It's outrageous to expect that, despite the massive amount of money he makes. We got a little bit of news during our recording. We're going to close with here, Tom. Yeah, Shams Charania did say Giannis is going to be sidelined for approximately 2 to 4 weeks with a right calf strain. So he has officially been diagnosed with please trade me-itis. And so that's the latest news.
Is that a clinical diagnosis there?
Yeah, it's a real Dr. Brian Suter told me about it.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to put that on you. It is wild that it happened on Thursday night, or sorry, on Wednesday night that injury happened. It's got to be real.
It's very
it's got to be real. It's got to be real,
Tom.
Man. 2 to 4 weeks. Okay. The NBA is going to be all over this now because they did. Did you see this on Wednesday that the NBA fined the 76ers for Joel Embiid's injury report when he did play? Joel Embiid did play after he was ruled out earlier in the day. Then he played later that night. And so the NBA was like, all right, I know that he did play, and we want this participation policy to encourage teams from playing their stars when they can. But you ruled him out earlier in the day, and a certain
That's so funny.
betting community would be very upset if we didn't come down hard on this. So, yeah, we're going to fine you for playing Joel Embiid. What a weird world we live in right now and work in, where the NBA is fining an NBA team for playing Joel Embiid. Think about that. So they're going to be all over this Giannis injury. Like, how legit is this? I think it's legit. For the record, Brian, I think it's legit. Kev,
I'm kidding. But Brian never said that to me. I'm joking. If people don't have their sarcasm detectors on, if they're not activated as you listen to the podcast, it was totally sarcastic. Brian did not say that.
Right, so 2 to 4 weeks. This isn't.
Yeah, 2 to 4 weeks.
Takes them through Christmas Day. Yeah. So this is going to be.
Well, maybe 2 weeks is what the 18th. So at a minimum, the 18th, he could return at that point.
Sure.
That's possible.
I'm just looking at the schedule here. They don't play on Christmas Day. That's right. So they don't play Christmas Day. They have a road trip that begins December 21st. So that's 17 days out. A 5-game road trip. They don't play the Knicks anytime soon here. So
the Knicks play on Christmas Day. The Knicks play on Christmas Day. The Spurs play on Christmas Day. The Thunder play on Christmas Day. The Warriors play on Christmas Day. The Rockets play on Christmas Day. The Lakers play on Christmas Day. So a lot of options that we went through where Giannis could indeed be playing on Christmas Day for some of these teams. That would be a little under 3 weeks since this apparent right calf strain. It might be real. I'm joking in part, but boy, the timing sure is suspect, Tom. It sure is suspect. 3 minutes into the game of the day, all that news drops. This was fun, Tom. Last question for you. Do you think he gets traded? Or is this just another tease? I think he gets traded too. I think this is the time. I think this is it.
I think he might have played his last game for the Milwaukee Bucks.
I know. And Chris Middleton hits a clutch down the stretch winner. The Wizards beating the Bucks is kind of what breaks it. Something poetic about that. Something, kind of beautiful. That's Chris Middleton, a playoff hero for the Milwaukee Bucks and all those great teams for so many years. And who knows how different things would be if Middleton never got hurt, never slipped. Could have been multiple for the Bucks, but ultimately, I think it's a shame that it's in this situation, Tom. I think it's a shame that he's out, regardless of the reason. But I think Bucks fans are always going to be Giannis fans, no matter what. Right, no matter what happens here, no matter what.
All right, well, let's put it down on the record here. So if we both think that he's going to be traded here, who do you think it is?
Rockets or Spurs?
Yeah. I'm going to put the Knicks in there too. I think it's more likely that the Rockets go in. I think it's less likely that the Spurs. So I would peg it 1, 2, and 3 because the Knicks, certainly if they had picks, they would be the number one on the list, but they don't have the picks. They don't have the young talent that a team like Milwaukee would want. And so they'd have to invite third and fourth teams, which the Spurs and the Rockets don't have to do that. So the ease of the path is so much clearer for the San Antonio Spurs and the Houston Rockets. That's why I put them higher on the list.
And plus, send them west if you're the Bucks. That could be a part of it here as well. Send them to the opposing conference.